Good afternoon. This is your session on the French Revolution. Unit 2. Social conditions in France that made the revolution likely. The French Revolution is all about change. Revolution means change, a complete change. So, in the context of French Revolution, the change they are talking about it is the change in the political system. It is the change from ancient regime, the one that was oppressive to the common people of France. Now let us move on. Key concepts and definitions. Clergy, the group of ordained ministers in the church. Ambassador, chief representative of a country in another country. Monks, men living under holy vows. Franc, which is a coin. Tithe, 1/10 of a peasant's earning paid to to the church, which is a type of tax. Militant, fierce or aggressive. Liberty means freedom. Concession, giving way to demands. Key concepts and definitions continued. First estate, the upper clergy. These are pastors and bishops. Second estate, nobles, which sometimes are referred to as the nobility. These are the aristocrats. Third estate, commoners or ordinary people, the middle class, named bourgeoisie. Autocratic monarchy, king who had all the power. Equality, everyone must be equal in the eyes of the law. Liberty means freedom. We already explained that. Liberty means being free. Fraternity, people sharing similar interests that are joined by similar backgrounds. Let us move on. This is a background on the French Revolution. How did the French Revolution lay the foundations for modern democracy? A revolution is a dramatic change in the society. This happened in France in 1789. Discontent ordinary citizens revolted against the old order of government, which is the old or ancient regime, known as the ancient regime. After six bloody years of protest, a new constitution was adopted in 1795. The French people had achieved liberty, which is freedom. They have achieved liberty, equality, and fraternity. Then Napoleon Bonaparte ruled France from 1799 after the death of King Louis XVI. Napoleon Bonaparte ruled France from 1799 to 1815. He put the nation through a series of devastating wars. However, the ideals of the French Revolution spread through the world. Which means the ideas of French Revolution spread to other European countries. Ordinary people were inspired to protest against the oppressive rulers. The French Revolution laid the foundation of our modern democracy. That was our background of the French Revolution. But today's session is focusing on the social conditions that paved a way to a revolution. How were the social conditions in France before the revolution? Before 1789, before the revolution, how people were living, how was the society? The society was divided into three estates. The first estate, the second estate, and the third estate. The first estate, which is the upper clergy, that consists of upper clergy and lower clergy. The second estate, the nobles. And we already know that nobles, we have different types of nobles that were found in the society in France. Nobles of the court, nobles that served people or that served the king at the court. Nobles of the robe, which were the government officials, they served in the government. And nobles of the sword. Nobles of the sword served in the military. They protected the king. So the society in France was divided into three. The first estate, second estate, and the third estate. The clergy were those who served the Catholic Church as priests or monks, living together in communities under holy vows. The church in France owned over 10% of the land, although the clergy amounted to less than half a percent of the population. Only nobles could become archbishops and bishops. Now let's go to the second estate. On the second estate, we have the nobles. The nobles were those in privileged positions with titles given to them by the king. They amounted to about 1% of the population and yet owned 20% of the land. There were three different categories. The nobles of the court served the king at the court, as I already said, nobles of the sword and nobles of the robes. So now I'm going to briefly tell you all the privileges that they enjoyed. All nobles enjoyed the following privileges. They were the only ones who could become ambassadors, reach the highest positions in the church, and become officers in the army. They did not have to pay certain taxes, such as the main income tax, which is the taille and the covey. And covey is a tax paid in service rather than in money. The second estate also enjoyed a number of rights as lords of the manor or the estate. These were known as feudal rights. Now let us go to third estate. The third estate was divided into three. We have the peasants, the middle class, and the urban workers. Peasants were small farmers or farm workers. They were by far the largest class in France, and they made up more than 80% of the population, and yet they owned more than 25% of the land. Now we are on the middle class, the bourgeoisie. The middle class were members of the third estate who were businessmen, traders, doctors, lawyers, or government officials. They were much better off than the peasants or urban workers and were usually educated. Now let us go to urban workers, which is another category in the third estate. Urban workers, they worked in town. They were the town dwellers. Town dwellers had a range of occupations: clerks, carpenters, plumbers, tailors, and small traders and laborers. Now let us move on. The social causes of the French Revolution. The French people had many complaints. They were sending complaints to the king, saying, "King Louis XVI, we demand this and this and this and that." So these were the following complaints by the ordinary people of France. The third estate was heavily taxed. So that means the third estate wanted the taxes to be revised. They wanted equal rights or equal treatment. They say, now King Louis XVI, as the third estate, we cannot only be the ones paying tax. Now we want change. This is our complaint. We as the third estate, we're the only group that is paying tax. So we want change. This is our complaint. The third estate was heavily taxed. 80% of their income could be taken from them. But the rich first and second estates were not taxed at all. So that is inequality. So that is another reason that made the revolution likely. People of France, the ordinary people, the peasants, were provoked. The third estate were provoked by other estates. How come are they not paying tax and we the only one who are paying tax? Point number 2. The factory workers were cruelly treated. They were poor and lived in dreadful conditions in the towns. The peasants on the farms hated the feudal system, and soon they wanted a change. They wanted the abolition of the feudal system or the feudal rights. In return for the protection of the noble, the peasants had to work for them, paid to use his mill, oven, and slaughterhouse and wine press. The peasants could not hunt on the farm. The nobles would often ride all over the peasants' precious vegetable gardens. The wealthy professionals, called the bourgeoisie, were angry because they had no say in the government. Let us move on. So these are the images of the French Revolution. The first image showing the peasants on the farm. The second second image shows the role of women in the revolution. This image shows an event when we started to see the role of women in the revolution, the time the women shouted for bread outside King Louis XVI's palace. This image shows the execution of the king. This image shows the peasant, the first estate, and the second estate. The peasants here, this image illustrates that the peasant is heavily taxed by these two. The last image shows the extravagant life of the king while the people are hungry. Let us move on. These are the YouTube videos you can watch as additional information. This is a homework. This is a homework for you guys. So this is a source-based activity. You read the source, you study the source. Study this image, you analyze and you answer the questions. Let me see if I can zoom this image so that I can try and explain it. So the first question is, what are the estates presented in this source? Explain the message of this cartoon. By looking at this source, how can you describe the conditions of the peasants in France? What type of novel that is represented in this source? How useful is this source to a historian researching about the history of the French Revolution. So you use your own knowledge and you also use this image, this source. Okay, let us move on. That is the end of our session. The session was not long at all. So thank you for your time. Enjoy.